Hey chess lovers and friends, what you're about to see is not normal. First, I'm back on chess and I want to show you how I went from 500 to 2400 elo in 2 days with literally 3 crazy openings that I'm about to show you guys, and one of them involved this trick that you're seeing on the board. Now before we continue, I would love you guys to find the best move in this position. After this, I'm going to take you through my top 3 favorite openings that helped me to reach 2400 in 2 days. Find the best move for white in this position. You have 5 seconds. Let's go! Okay, so this is one little puzzle that I came across as a child, and now you're going to see the power of photographic memory in chess. Yes, the best move in this position is knight e6. This traps the queen immediately. There's nothing black can do to save their queen. Say if black takes the knight, there's simply a checkmate in one, beginning with queen h5 check, and after g6, there's queen takes g6. Checkmate. Solving chess puzzles improves your tactical vision, and it's quite advantageous, especially with some of you with photographic memory like myself. This is the best way to improve at chess, solving chess puzzles. Why? Because most positions and structures are so relatable, as you are going to see. This is how I improved my chess. To get this free study PGN that I'm using in this video, simply scroll all the way down to the comment section and click the first link that you see, which will redirect you to a page that will ask you to subscribe before getting this PGN for free. Right, so the first game ended in exactly 8 moves, and I was playing white. Started with pawn to e4, then my opponent played pawn to d6. This is called the Pierce defense, or the perk. I played pawn to e5, hoping for my opponent to pre-move knight f6. This is what happens to me most of the times. I end up winning games on move number 2 after pawn takes. Just a bullet trick, but anyway, that wasn't the whole idea. My opponent did not blunder with this move, knight f6. They played de, after which I played knight f3, and then my knight was attacked. Without my opponent realizing it, I kinda transposed the game back to the Tennison Gambit, which is my comfort zone. They played knight f6 to defend that pawn on e4, and guess what I did? Pawn to d3, giving up another pawn. By now, you guys should already know this common Tennison Gambit trap. I was waiting for my opponent to play pawn to h6 so that I could sacrifice my knight on f7, and after king takes, I was simply going to play bishop g6 check, knowing that the black king can't go back. So this is how I win most of my opponent's queens. I win the queen on move number 9 in the Tennison Gambit. But anyway, after bishop takes, that didn't happen. My opponent didn't play pawn to h6. Maybe they know that Tennison Gambit trap or whatever, so they played knight bd7, not allowing me to win their queen for free. And that's why here I couldn't sacrifice on f7. But I want you guys to take a moment and see this position on the board. Does it look familiar to you, or have you ever seen anything like this before? Let's see what you think. This, ladies and gentlemen, is where the power of chess puzzles and tactics come in. The more you solve chess puzzles, the more things become more relatable. At this point, I started thinking of this puzzle, which I showed you at first. In that puzzle, remember, after pawn to h6, we found that the best move is actually knight e6. And that traps the queen. Another thing you need to notice in this position is black's queen's knight is on d7, obstructing the light squared bishop and the queen. And so this is the position I was thinking about when my opponent played knight bd7. This is how we reason in chess. And believe it or not, when you look at the time stamp, I mean, you will find the games in the comment section down below. I was able to realize this in 1 second. This is what we call photographic memory. So at this point, I played knight c3 and started waiting for pawn to h6, because this is exactly what my opponent played. And the moment this happened, guess what I did? Played that same trick which I showed you, knight e6, and my opponent resigned. Ladies and gentlemen, you will never improve at chess if you don't make it your habit to solve chess puzzles. That's what improves the tactical vision. Once again, the queen is just trapped. If pawn takes, this time we have bishop g6, checkmate. That's why my opponent resigned. This is one of the openings that helped me to reach 2400 in 2 days. Game number 2, which featured a similar opening trick. This time I was playing against a 2400, as you can see, and by now my rating was already 2405. Started with e4. As usual, my opponent played d5, the Scandinavian, and then I played knight f3. This time, I made it obvious to go straight into the Tennison Gambit. My opponent played knight f6 again, defending that pawn, as we saw in the last game. And then I played knight c3. With this move, I was expecting to see something like bishop f5. Maybe my opponent was going to hold on to their extra pawn, after which I was going to play bishop c4. This is what I do nowadays, targeting the weak f7 square. And after something like pawn to e6, I usually give up the d3 pawn. After pawn takes, I then attack the b7 pawn like this. If pawn to c6, this is when I sacrifice my knight on f7 like this, double attacking the queen and the rook, so that if king takes, I get back my piece in this style. Pap. Also teaming up with my light squad bishop like this. This is what I do for a living, you guys, in the world of chess. By the way, this is why you have all the reasons to subscribe to this channel, because you are going to learn tricks like this. Anyway, that was the whole reason why I played knight c3 back on move 4. I was expecting my opponent to play bishop f5 so that I could go bishop c4. But anyway, after knight c3, my opponent played knight bd7 again. Question: what do you think I started thinking about in this position? Once again, you can understand why I'm referring to this kind of a practice as photographic memory. Yes, chess puzzles sharpen your photographic memory as well, not only sharpening your tactical vision. At this point, when I saw knight bd7, all I started imagining was the move pawn to h6. I was going to be happy to see this move, and in preparation of this, I played bishop e2. I knew there was 99% chance that my 2400 rated opponent was going to try and chase my knight away, forgetting that I had knight e6. Once again, trapping the queen on the spot. Who am I? And where do I come from? I don't know. Well, at this point, my opponent could have resigned, but I mean, this was a bullet match. Maybe they were expecting I was going to blunder. By the way, if pawn takes, I was simply going to checkmate my opponent in 3, beginning with bishop h5 check. After knight takes, queen takes, g6, then queen takes, mate. This is what I had prepared. But anyway, after pawn to h6 and knight e6, my opponent continued with knight e5. And that's how I grabbed the free queen. Of course, this being a bullet game, we continued playing, and obviously I kind of messed it up later in the middle game, but I ended up winning the game. Okay, let's just see what happened. King takes, I castled short to keep it safe, and remember, I was pre-moving most of these moves. I was playing very fast in 1 millisecond, 2 milliseconds, 3 milliseconds, like that. Bishop f5 was played. I played d3. d4 was also playable. ed, bishop takes, oversimplifying the game like this. c6, knight e4, just to oversimplify the game once again. That happened. Then queen f3. At this point, it was just a matter of technique. I mean, oversimplification and just playing for the sake of loving the game of chess. Otherwise, there was nothing to play for, but I still had to be very careful. For example, here, let me explain something. I played queen e1 on move number 22, and then my opponent played pawn to b6. The idea was, if I move my knight, since it's under attack now, my opponent was going to take on d3 with their knight, double attacking my rook on c1 and the queen on e1, which is why I decided to play bishop e5. This was a counter attack. I made this move in 4 seconds. How fast of a cheater can I be? So before we continue, let me make this clear. Once and for all, my account was never flagged for cheating. I've never been caught cheating in my life, and if I was doing any of those nonsense, I wasn't even going to reach this far, as you are going to see. So the thing is, leeches believed I was aborting or losing too many games on purpose. To them, that's called rating manipulation. So the keyword is losing too many games intentionally, because according to the leeches system, I'm too good to lose certain games. Story for another day. We continue. BC happened. Then I took on c7, king takes, queen e5 check, and my opponent resigned. Moving on to the next game, this featured the Aleheim defense and then transposed to the 4 knights game, as you are going to see. So this is to say the second opening that helped me to reach 2400 in 2 days was the 4 knights game that you're going to see on the board. Started with pawn to e4, my opponent responded with the Aleheim defense, and then after I played bishop c4, they played pawn to e5. Oh, by the way, my idea was if knight takes, I was simply going to make them lose their right to castle, go queen h5 check, and after pawn to g6, you go queen d5 check. I mean, I would have played all these things if my opponent took the pawn on e4. This is what I prepared. It's also playable. From here, you just start expanding on the king side like no man's business. Play pawn to d4, give it a chance, knight f3, knight g5, you will have a good game. And you can even choose to castle long in the long run. But anyway, back on move 2, when I played bishop c4, my opponent played pawn to e5, ignoring my nonsense. And this transposed the game back to the 4 knights game when I played knight c3. Now wait a second. My idea was to play the reversed Nimzowitsch defense that I've been preaching about most recently. I was expecting my opponent to play bishop c5. After this, I was going to play pawn to d3, and after d6, immediately I was going to play knight e2. This is what I've been doing nowadays. And kinda transposing back to the gioco pianissimo. Given a chance, I would love to play pawn to c3 and bishop b3 before playing knight g3. And if my opponent played knight a5, I was going to leave this light squared bishop here and play knight g3. So I'm comfortable to remain with this position, controlling the d5 square with my 2 center pawns as highlighted, knowing full and well that black can't do a thing. Bishop g4, pawn to h3. Let them decide what they want to do. Bishop e6, pawn to b3, c3, a4, castle shot, queen e2, bishop. This is all I covered in one of my recent videos on my channel. You can check out my other videos if you don't want to be losing many games. But when I played knight c3, the 4 knights game, my opponent did something that was not new to my eyeballs. Instead of playing bishop c5 or pawn to d6, they played knight takes e4, an intermediate move. The idea is if I take, they can then go pawn to d5, getting back their piece. That was their idea. But I surprised them by transposing the game from the 4 knights to the Boden-Kitseritsky without even them realizing it. They took my knight, I took back, and all of a sudden, this was the reversed Stafford, if you think about it. What are we talking about? My opponent played bishop c5. Here there are 2 beautiful continuations. If I just want to oversimplify the game, I was just going to sacrifice my bishop on f7, and after king takes, I was going to follow it up with queen d5 check, making black lose their right to castle, also getting back my piece with tempo. I have knight g5 in the near future, bishop that, castle long, start attacking on the king side like no man's business. But what happened was this. After bishop c5, I did not sacrifice my bishop to make my opponent lose their right to castle. I played knight g5, a more principled move, and my opponent castled short. And now I played queen h5. Death is coming. I'm just 1 move away from taking on f7 with no any problems at all. My opponent played pawn to h6, and then I played this cold-blooded move. Oh, wait a second. I would love you guys to find the best move in this position. I give you 5 seconds. Let's go. Okay, so knight takes f7 is playable, and that's good. Also, bishop takes f7 is good, but queen g6 is the best move. Why? Because the pawn can't take my queen. I have 1 move to checkmate my opponent. So my opponent played queen f6 and allowed me to checkmate them like that. That was it. Most of these moves were pre-moved, and I was playing at supersonic speed. I only spent about 30 seconds. By the way, the best try here is queen takes g5, after which I was just going to take back like this, and nothing was going to stop me from checkmating my opponent like that. Moving on to the next game, the 4th game that also featured the 4 knights game. Without wasting much of your time, here is how the game started. By the way, this is why we call it the 4 knights game. It involves the development of these 4 knights in the opening stage. If you develop 1 more knight, that will become the 5 knights opening, 1 invisible knight. After knight f6, I played bishop c4 as usual, also allowing this move to happen. Yes, black has an option to ignore that and play bishop c5, pawn to d6, but I knew my opponent was going to take, expecting me to take once again so that they could go pawn to d5 and get back their piece. I played pawn to h4. This is what I'm doing nowadays, playing my own openings that I teach on this channel to confuse my enemies. My opponent here did not take on c3, maybe due to their own instincts or intuition. They played bishop c5, now attacking my thing. By the way, there's still this same trap. If knight takes, they are going to play pawn to d5. So I played bishop takes f7. Why? Oh, the point is, now after king takes, I can safely play knight takes e4, and now this is going to come with an attack. By the way, if I wanted, I could have taken on e4 on the previous move, but I just wanted to make my opponent lose their right to castle. They played bishop b6, and then I played knight g5. Not an accurate move, but I'm up to something. Watch. After king g8, I played pawn to d4, and I smelled death from here. My opponent took back with a knight, and I played pawn to c3, and I already knew I was winning, because what happened next was more embarrassing. They played knight f5, and up to you guys to find mate in 2. I played the best move from here and checkmated my opponent in 2. This only lasted for 11 seconds. Again, this was bullet. Leave your answers in the comment section down below. I'll be checking through to mark. By the way, my opponent was rated 2442, so these are not just cheap tricks for amateurs. Moving on to the next game. This was game number 5 that featured the Caro-Kann defense tactical variation. The opening that you're going to see here is among the openings that helped me to skyrocket my rating from 500 to 2400 in 2 days. So after e4 and c6, I was playing this line which I covered recently on my channel. After knight f6, I usually take, and after pawn takes, this is the tactical variation, by the way, a very common opening. I don't want to waste much of your time in the opening stage. Knight f3 is what I played, or what I play most of the times. Bishop d6 was played by my opponent. I played bishop d3, preparing to sacrifice my bishop on h7. My opponent cast it short, and then I played pawn to h4. The same thing that I do even in the 4 knights game. This is why I say when you solve a lot of chess puzzles, positions and structures will start looking similar. My opponent played rook e8 check. As always, I play king f1, because what else do I know? Bishop g4 was played, and guess what? Pap took on h7, sacrificing my bishop. After king takes, I played knight g5 check, attack on the last squad bishop, pawn takes, this is open check, and then king g8 was played. Then I played queen takes g4. Just a matter of time before checkmating my opponent. As you can tell, rook e6 was played, trying to stop something. I played queen h5. The best move in 1 second. And look at the time, you guys. This is how you know that somebody has mastered chess. Making these moves very quickly. I played 14 moves in 9 seconds. Anyway, king f8 was played, and then I played again the best move according to Stockfish, pawn to g6 in less than 1 second. Why? Anyway, it is because I have studied this over and over. I've covered all these lines on this channel, so there's no need for me to think. Rook takes happened, and then guess what? Stockfish says I could have taken the rook, but I chose to play bishop d2. Not the best move, but the idea is to call for help. I wanted my a rook to be involved into the game. I had queen h8 coming. So my opponent played rook e6, and then I could have played queen h8, but I decided to start with bishop g5, more understandable at human level. My opponent played pawn to f6, and then instead of queen h8, I played queen g6, a cold-blooded move, you guys. Another move that I have mastered with all my eyeballs in this opening. Point is, after fg, what happened? Simply had a mate in 2, which I found immediately. Pap, king e7, and mate. Photographic memory. Alright, let's conclude with the last game that helped me to reach 2400 in 2 days. The last game also featured the Caro-Kann tactical variation, beginning with the moves e4, c6, d4, d5, knight c3, de, knight takes, knight f6, knight takes, pawn takes, knight f3, bishop g4, bishop d3, bishop d6. You can see even by now I'm not spending much of my time because I already know all these things. By the way, this was a 3-minute blitz match and I only spent like 3 seconds up to this move. King f1 is what I played, a very cheeky move. Why? Anyway, my opponent castled short. I played pawn to h4 because what else do I know? Even up to this point, I spent only 4 seconds. This is what I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen. Knight d7 was played and then I rushed out with the move bishop takes. Again, this works because black's rook is not on e8. My opponent took back with a king and then I played knight g5 check. Same stuff, pawn takes, open check by the rook. So this time my opponent played king g6 and then I played queen takes g4. Now I want you to learn something here. My opponent played what most of you guys can play, which is rook h8, challenging my rook on h1. Now I want you to find the bestiest move in this position. Take a moment, I'll show you, but I just want you to use your mental capacity. Let's go. I guess some of you guys are looking at moves like queen e4 check, maybe pawn to f4, and I don't know, even bishop that and rook takes. I remember solving a puzzle that looked similar to this position, and because of my good photographic memory, I was able to find rook h6. Look at the time. Only spent 1 second to play this move, rook h6 check. 1 second. This is why you guys should subscribe and share my channel. Help me, I help you. How is this so good? Whatever black is going to do, I'm going to take back with my pawn, and if they go back, that'll be checkmate. That was the whole idea. Even if they took back with a rook, it wasn't going to carry much weight. This is open check, by the way. Only sensible move is king f6, after which I played bishop g5 and I was going to win that queen. King g6 was played, and after bishop takes d8, this was open check. After king h6 and bishop back to g5, my opponent resigned. By the way, I could have played king e2, then checkmate like that. Just wanted to prolong the game because, I mean, either ways I was going to win the knight and the bishop. Anyway, this is all for today, you guys. I didn't even know how to title this video, to be honest. Should I use photographic memory in chess, or how I went from 500 to 2400 elo in 2 days? I don't know what the YouTube algorithm likes, but I mean, you are the only people that can make this video go viral. But I've noticed that my good viewers have a tendency of hiding information, not wanting other people to learn some of these tricks, which is understandable, but to be honest, it doesn't really help us to grow. So if you really care about this channel, please do the needful. Subscribe if you haven't already, like this video, leave a comment, share this video so that we can grow together as well. Right.